Welcome to the Guelph Real Estate Report podcast with your host and Guelph Realtor, Ryan Waller. This podcast is designed to provide information for those buying and selling homes in the Guelph area to make the process more informative, fun, and a little less stressful. Now, on with the show.
Hey everyone, it's Ryan and welcome back to another episode of the Guelph Real Estate Report podcast. This is episode number 22, and I am Ryan Waller. I am a Guelph Realtor, and I work with my wife, Beth. And today, we are going to talk about September 2025 sales. September is always an interesting month because, well, everybody's back in school. Well, the kids are, maybe some adults. Adults are back at work. Vacation time is over for the most part, and people fall back into a routine, which includes the purchase and sale of a new home. And a lot of people like to wait until September because between Labor Day and Thanksgiving, there is a rush of people that come back to the market. They want to take advantage of the early fall months while there are still leaves on the trees, the weather's warmer, and they want to be able to move into their new home before Christmas. So September is a perfect time for that. So we normally see a seasonal bump up in September sales. And it doesn't necessarily mean that prices go up, because as we'll talk about, they didn't. But it does mean there is more activity. And after September, from October 1st until the end of the year, sales volume, as in the number of houses that sell, declines. People are thinking less about moving, and they are, I guess, getting ready for cooler weather, Christmas, holidays, all those sorts of things. There are people who are fine with moving after Christmas, so buying something in October and closing in January, but for the most part, people psychologically want to have the transaction wrapped up by the end of the year. It's why September is the busiest, and then we see it fall off after that. And by fall off, I don't mean prices collapse. I simply mean that there are less transactions that happen. Prices could actually go up in that period depending on what it is that's on the market. If you have a very unique, desired house that is for sale in October, it could do very well because odds are you won't be competing with a lot of other ones. Okay, so now let's get into the specifics of the Guelph real estate market for September. You can find an entire, longer, more detailed version of this on our website at bethandryan.ca. It is a blog that we update every 2 weeks at the mid-month and at the end of the month with what's going on in the market. So if you ever want to know what's going on, chances are we've probably updated it. We're, I would say, probably the most efficient at updating these on a regular basis. And if you have any questions on it, you can always give us a call, book an appointment, shoot us an email. So what we're looking at are September sales are flat. They are in line with last year. They are in line with prior Septembers. After June 30th, we look at about somewhere around 4 houses per day on average selling. September of this year was 4.3. So there is a blip up there. You'll find that the following months coming up, October, November, and December, will be gradually decreasing as we get closer to the end of the year. And July really was the only month this year that we saw above 2024 volumes. We really have been in line or down versus last year in most categories. That is in the number of houses that sell, but also the average price, as we'll talk about, is decreasing. In September, on the 17th, the Government of Canada reduced the lending rate by 0.25 basis or 25 basis points, bringing the rate to 2.5%. And of course, anybody who has a variable rate mortgage or a HELOC are liking that because their costs come down on a month-to-month basis. If you have a fixed rate mortgage, it doesn't apply to you. And if you anticipate that these rates coming down is going to put a rush of new buyers into the market, Probably not going to happen. Most people who are looking to buy a house and have already spoken to their bank, the fixed rates tend to move far in advance of the announcement. So there's not really any great deals to be had. And most buyers aren't going to suddenly jump onto realtor.ca for a 0.25 interest rate reduction. In September 2025, we have a total of 563 houses on the market. So that is made up of 245 condo or townhouses and 318 detached houses. This is actually down from July, mainly in the detached segment. Based on that, we are in a balanced market. And a balanced market is when there is an efficient market, where there is enough inventory to meet the needs of buyers and sellers, and typical negotiations happen. Typical conditions are part of offers. We are getting close to a buyer's market, and you may wonder how we determine that. I won't overcomplicate it, but in the most simple terms, you take the average sell-through in a month. So let's take September, 130 houses, and you divide that by what's available now, so that if we calculated that every house currently on the market sold through, how many months that would take. So we have 563 houses on the market now. We're selling 130 per month. It puts us at 5 months of inventory, maybe just under 5 months of inventory. And so the type of market is calculated on how many months of inventory are available. If there are less than 2 months of inventory, or MOI, we are in a seller's market. There's not enough supply to meet the needs of the buyers, and we're going to run out of houses. If you have between 2 to 6 months of inventory, you are in a balanced market. And the closer you get to the 6 months of inventory, the closer you get to a buyer's market, because at 6+ months, you are now in a full-blown buyer's market where buyers are in control. So as a reminder, we're sitting probably, let's say, to keep it simple, we're at 5 months of inventory. So we are clearly in a balanced market. We are moving towards a buyer's market. Now, if you look at the numbers of what sold of those 130 in September, 103 of them were detached, and 27 of them were condos. In the detached segment, the low price was $360,000 on Arthur Street in the General Hospital neighborhood. The highest was $1.8 million in Old University. Overall average here took a noticeable dip. It was 3% in the month of September versus August, and also versus last September, and also a significant drop versus July. So we did see a move downwards in September. Does that mean that the sky is falling? No, all it means is September was lower. Really, until you see a longer term trend of downward prices, it's really nothing to be concerned about. It's if you see it ongoing. Homes sold on average of 97.7% of the last listed asking price. Of the 103, 12 sold over the asking, 10 sold at the asking, and the remaining 81 or 78% sold under the asking. So 78% of sales out there are happening under the asking. There is negotiation happening. Sellers are realizing that if they want to sell their house, they're not in control anymore, and they have to try to work with buyers, because buyers have choices. And if the seller of a house isn't willing to work with the buyer can just go find something else. And buyers are taking their time to buy things. They're not in a rush. The higher end segment, we keep an eye on this. Between 15 to 20% of sales are typically over $1 million in Guelph. We rolled in at 15%. We're right on the bottom edge of that 15 to 20. So it was higher for a little while in the summer, and suddenly in September, it took a dive. So we will watch that again to see what happens, but we noticed in particular September was a big move down. We are seeing a lot of move-up buyers. These are people who are selling in the 7, 8, 900,000, have outgrown their home. Maybe it was their first home, and they are trading up to a larger, more expensive home, because those are not moving as quickly. So they can get a better deal on those and still have a pretty good chance of selling at a competitive price between $700,000 and $900,000. Flipping over to the condo segment, there were 27 units that sold. 325 was the low in the Willow neighborhood, and $1,050,000, there were actually two of them, sold in the South Guelph condos down by Clare and Victoria, $1,050,000. Overall average here was $620,000. Partially it was skewed upwards by those two sales at $1,050,000, but it is over $600,000 for the first time in a couple of months. Homes here sold at 97.8% of the last posted asking. That seems to be in line with what it's been doing over the past number of months. One of the 27 sold over the asking, 5 sold at the asking, and the remaining 77%, very similar to detached, sold under the asking. That's 21 of the 27. The interesting thing here, which we noted last month, and it's still the same, is that with 27 sales in 30 days in September, that's less than one per day. And when you're selling less than one per day, it means buyers are shopping around, they're comparing, they are negotiating against the others. And we are in a situation where in July, there were 230 condo townhouses or anything with a fee were for sale, and they were selling at 1.6 per day. In August, we were at 1.3 per day. And now we're at 0.9 per day, but we actually have more inventory than we had in the past. So it's actually getting worse if you are selling something with a fee, a condo with a fee, whether that's an apartment condo or a townhouse or a stacked townhouse. There's more inventory and less are selling per day. What does this mean? It means if you're a buyer of a condo, you really want to get into that style of home, you're loving this because it's working and moving in your direction. If you are selling one right now, you have to be able to show your value versus others because there are so many on the market. If you have a condo for sale right now, you are competing against 244 others, and less than one is selling per day. So you have to have better photography, you have to have better staging, and your price has to be in line with what the current pricing is in the market. What sold 6 months ago, if your neighbor sold a year ago, those are now irrelevant. The market is moving, it's fluid, and you need to be able to price your home what was the going rate in July or August, or even into September. But looking back 6 months, a year, you're not there anymore. And it's a tough pill to swallow for some sellers because for so long they were in control and now they are no longer. Now, if you bought a condo in the past few months, you've done well. And if you aren't selling, it doesn't matter anyways. So I would just continue to ride it out. The best time to buy is when you're ready to buy. Will it get better for you? Probably. I think as we get closer to November, December, I think some investors are going to want to dump these because it's the end of the season and they can get the capital gains in for tax purposes. I do anticipate it's going to get better. So stay in touch with us if you are looking in that segment because we'll show you some of the better deals out there. Overall, the market for September was a bit sluggish, and I think that we are going to continue to see it in October all the way through to December. We've already had a couple of clients say, I'm not participating in this. No one's coming to my listing. We are going to take it off the market, take away the stress of having to keep our house tidy for showings all the time, and we will relist in the spring. So there is a bit of seller fatigue kicking in. I anticipate this is going to happen across the board. I do anticipate that prices are going to slowly decline into the end of the year. Nothing significant, maybe 1%, maybe 2%. But I do think that we are on a downward trajectory as opposed to an upward trajectory in overall price. So as a buyer, probably loving this. Get in touch if you have any questions, if you want to go see some things. We've got a team. Beth and I can also work with you, and we can get this all set up for you. If you have any questions, As always, you can call us, email us, and you can book an appointment right on our homepage. Talk to you later.